Good evening and welcome to the Frisco Chamber of Commerce. My name is Chris. I am the Government Relations Manager here at the Frisco Chamber of Commerce. We have an exciting evening for you. We've got two of our candidates in our City Council Place 5 here in Frisco runoff race. That election will be called very shortly, and so we wanted to bring our candidates in for them to share their information with you, the Frisco business community and Frisco community at large. I am going to step off here in just a moment. Our moderators this evening are going to be Tony Felker and Crystal Howard. They've moderated our previous few debates here at the Chamber, and they've done a really great job with that, so we're going to keep them around a little while longer. But with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to them for the evening, and with that, y'all have fun tonight.
Good.
That was kind of ominous. He's going to keep us around a little longer.
I think it's good. I mean, hey, I mean, we're here as long as these elections are taking. We were joking earlier before coming on the air that this has been the longest campaign season, and our two candidates that are with us tonight, they just want to keep making it longer and longer. So I guess that's a good thing. So.
But hats off to all the candidates who made it through, because it has been a very unusually long campaign. But tonight we went from 7 and now to 2 in a runoff.
This is in place 5. The ironic thing that Chris alluded to a little bit is that the actual election results from November 3rd, we're not talking about the national, the local, haven't actually been formally approved. So we think you two are going to make it into the runoff here. They'll be calling that election tomorrow if everything goes according to plan. So very good. So. Once again, at the Chambers, we don't endorse any particular candidates, but we want to make certain that we are educating our business community, the entire community, on what the issues are, who the candidates are, and hopefully helping you make a decision so that you go out and vote for this runoff election.
And much the same, in my capacity at Community Impact Newspaper, we never endorse candidates either. We're all about giving you the facts and who's on your ballot. So if you've seen our forums before, this will be very similar, except with just 2 candidates instead of the 7 that we had last time. They will have a 1-minute intro each. They will each get to respond to questions with 1 minute in response. At the end, we will do a 2-minute closing. And just to make it interesting, you know, last time, if you watched, we had the balls that they could throw with the bandanas. This time, you have the option to ask your opponent up to 2 questions throughout the evening. So
that could be like a follow-up. If something gets said and you want to follow up, you're allowed to follow up 2 different times. So.
And we'll keep track.
Our timekeeper is over here, as we went over with beforehand, at the 15-second mark, 75% through your time on the 1-minute responses. Hold up a yellow card. If you hear the cowbell, you've hit your time. And we're doing that so everybody can hear that offsite as well. So with that, I think we pretty much are ready to get going. So once again, congratulations to the 2 of you. We have Ms. Laura Rummel, Mr. Dan Strickland, 2 out of 7 that have now made it to this part. So I want to kick things off first. Well, first of all, you get to do your introductory statement. Right. So Ms. Laura, we'll let you go first and then followed up by Mr. Dan.
Okay, well, thank you guys for having us back out. I really do appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Rummel. A little bit about me. I am a proud military brat. My father served 22 years in the United States Air Force, and so I grew up all over the place. And my parents settled here in 2001. I actually quickly followed in 2002. Bought my first house in Frisco in 2005. Did a quick hiatus. We were gone for about 2.5 years, but moved back 3 years ago. And we are now on our 3rd house in Frisco. I am a very loyal Texas Tech alumni. I'm very ready for basketball season to start, though, after a very rough football season. And I'm also a executive MBA alumni from SMU. I currently work for a financial technology company called Pay Near Me. But I've also worked for a variety of Fortune 500 companies like Kraft Heinz, American Express, and I have been a advocate in our pet community.
Minute flies by, so you'll have ample opportunity to follow up. Mr. Dan?
Absolutely. My name is Dan Strickland. Thank you for having us here tonight. Chamber is always wonderful to the Frisco community. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm an entrepreneur, business owner, and my wife and I moved our family to Frisco so we could be closer to our church family. My son, Jack, goes to Pearson, and my daughter, Catherine, goes to Hosp Elementary. You know, our family believes in service, and we believe in giving back to our community. I've served on the Hosp Elementary PTA. I've been a member of all the PTAs in Frisco. I've served on my Homeowners Association board as VP and president. And we just really believe in giving back to our local community. As your Frisco City Councilman, I look forward to putting Frisco's family first and having business thrive in Frisco.
Very good. All right, now we get to go into the questions. So if you don't mind, I've got a quick question. We'll start with Mr. Dan this time. So on the night of the elections for November 3rd, when the results came out, what was your reaction? You're in a pool of 7 candidates. You see the results come out. What was your reaction that night in terms of the results?
So when there's so many different people in a race, and I do want to compliment Laura. She worked so hard, and her husband Hayden did on the campaign. They were poll grading. They were there day in and day out. And when I saw that she came in second place, the first thing that came to my head was, absolutely, she earned it. So congratulations to Laura.
Thank you.
And that is exactly what I assumed was going to happen, because they're the people that were out working, out campaigning, doing what they need to do. I think it showed in the polls.
Ms. Laura, what was your reaction when the news came out and you two emerged from the pack of 7 to be the finalists here?
Pleasantly surprised. I knew I was in a very competitive race. I have a lot of respect for many of my peers that I ran against, and I thought there was a couple of them that very easily could have made the runoff instead of me. So actually, when my husband first called me when the Collin County results came out, I said, "Are you sure you're reading the results correctly?" So very pleasantly surprised, very excited, and very hopeful for what comes next.
Very good.
Well, traditionally, runoff elections don't have nearly the turnout of the original election, and in this case, it will likely be even more exaggerated. So what would you say to voters to emphasize to them? Why should they come out for this runoff? Mr. Strickland?
Yeah, so, this runoff is, this has been a 13-month ride for some of us that have been, involved in the process. And what I can say is, the candidates have worked hard, and, the messaging is out there. It is a wonderful opportunity to exercise your civic duty. And, early voting starts November the 23rd, and Election Day is on the 8th. So come out. We look forward to seeing you at the polls.
And Laura, why is this important?
Yeah, I would add that local politics are incredibly important. I think they have more impact on our day-to-day than what national politics do. So having a say in who's going to help make the decisions for your city is incredibly important. Additionally, I think people are paying more attention now, knowing with the impacts of COVID and how some of the city different ordinances and regulations have come down. So hopefully I would get the message out that, hey, if you want somebody supporting your city, please be sure to come out and vote.
Very good. So with 2 of you remaining instead of 7 the first time around, it's allowing us to go into a little bit more detail and kind of start fresh again to know about each of you and what separates you from one another. So Ms. Laura, just to start off, if somebody said, why are you running for Place 5 Frisco City Council, what's your response?
My response is I wanted to help the city. When I had been paying attention to city politics for a few years now, and when I sat through the working session back in January where the city outlined their Vision 2020 goals, there were a couple of goals where I thought my experience could really help. Number one, they wanted to do an innovation on entrepreneurship center. I work for a successful startup, and I really thought that my experience with that, venture capitalism, also how to support small business getting started would be really beneficial. Second was Grand Park. That is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I also have some ideas on how we can not raise taxes, but still create a revenue generating opportunity for the maintenance that's going to be required for something like that. So those were a couple of reasons why I decided to run this year.
And the same question for you, sir.
Yeah, so, as your city councilman, my top priority is the safety and security of your family. My campaign's been endorsed by the Frisco Firefighters Association and elected law enforcement officials in both Denton and Collin County. And, firefighters, they sit down with me and discuss how our city doesn't have a thorough workers' compensation program to protect them. I heard multiple examples of our brave men and women being hurt on the job, yet in the long term, they were not supported by our current policies. Firefighters and elected law enforcement officials know I'll support their efforts and do everything in my power to ensure Frisco is the safest city in America. We need to make sure their families are taken care of because they make sure our families are taken care of.
You mentioned endorsements. Let's talk about those endorsements, and what do you think your other endorsements say about you as a candidate?
Well, my endorsements are pretty broad, and specifically which endorsements?
Whichever you'd like to talk about.
I have over 20.
Your choice, any that you'd like to highlight with your minute.
So I guess my top level endorsement would be Alan West, who's the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. That endorsement, came, from him, and I'm deeply honored to be endorsed by the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. What it says about me is that he has faith in my capabilities, and I'm just honored to, get that endorsement. Also, my other favorite endorsement is Denton County Sheriff Tracy Murphy. The sheriff works really, really hard at what he does to keep families safe, and the constables in both Denton and Collin County that serve Frisco. And the firefighters, of course, the firefighters. We love the firefighters.
Thank you. And Ms. Rummel, what about your endorsements? Which would you like to highlight, and what do they say about you as a candidate?
So I didn't focus on endorsements at all during the first campaign. I focused on me and necessarily my policies because that's what I wanted to be judged on. So I'm putting together my endorsements now, just started releasing them as of yesterday. And I have the mayor, 4 out of the 6 councilmen so far, as well as most of the ISD trustees, which hopefully we'll have the rest of them in the near future. I think what that says about me is that they want to work with me. I've sat across the table from some of our city councilmen and disagreed on some issues. I've gone to citizen input and I've pushed them on some things that I wanted to see changed. But I do it in a very productive manner where I want to see Frisco become better. And I think they respect me for having an independent opinion, bringing it to their attention, and helping to educate them. And they know I'll be a good partner, and they know I have the best interests of Frisco at heart.
Okay. Mr. Strickland, in mentioning your endorsements, you brought up, City Council is technically a nonpartisan race. It's not Democrat,
Right.
It's not Republican. You mentioned some of your endorsements. Do you think it's good or bad for more partisan politics to start coming into City Council and local races? Why or why not?
Well, different city councils in different parts of the United States do partisan, and they also do nonpartisan. Our city has shown nonpartisan. My biggest campaign supporter is a Democrat. My wife, I love her dearly, and you have to learn to work across the aisle. And for me in local politics, it really doesn't matter if someone is a Republican or a Democrat, but the reason why I get those endorsements is because my political views tend to align with conservative Republican values.
Ms. Rummel, what would be your response as far as partisan politics coming into local races? It would appear to be more and more so. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it was more so this year just because of us falling in November. Hopefully that goes back to a little bit more normal in May. But I'm not for partisan politics playing into the city. I think when I've sat down with key leaders that are both Republicans and Democrats, we want the same things. We all want our money and taxes to be spent wisely. We want our roads to be in good condition. We want our school system to be one of the best. We want our kids to grow up in a safe neighborhood. So there's no reason for partisan to come into that, in my opinion. If you Google my name, one of the first things that auto-populates is political party. And I take that as a huge compliment that no one knows what my political party is. They have to come and ask, because that means I'm honoring the integrity of the nonpartisan race.
You mentioned roads, and obviously roads and transportation. If you've driven around Frisco, you've seen the orange cones. There is a lot happening. If a citizen were to ask you about all of that, and maybe they had some frustration with all the roads feeling like they're under construction at the same time, what would your response to them be?
Well, I got caught up in that this morning, actually. So I understand the feeling. However, there's obviously some major plans that we have to maintain. And a lot of that, things happen for budgetary reasons at different points in time. We have the funds, the projects are available now, and so we need to get it done. And I do think that is a necessary requirement to maintain them before they get worse.
So, great question. And so I'm going to talk about roads and also sidewalks because they're made out of concrete. Our concrete's getting old, especially on the east side of Frisco. And, there's a lot of road work and there's a lot of sidewalk repair. We have uneven sidewalks too as well. A solution, if you see an uneven sidewalk or an area in the road that needs to be fixed, we have the My Frisco app. Our council put that together and city staff to where you could take a photo. That is, of course, after you pull off the side of the road. I don't want you to do that when you're driving. That's unsafe. But go back, take a picture if you can, report it, and a ticket will come up, and the city will follow through and say, hey, we took care of this specific area.
Good. You've each touched on this a little bit, but as we mentioned before, this is a chance for us to dig a little bit deeper into both of you. So as it relates to your occupations and what you do professionally, what aspects of that would you be bringing to the city council role in particular? If you can line up 2 or 3 things. Mr. Strickland?
So I have a history in senior management. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm currently the managing partner of IntelliSite. What our company does is we provide electronic security to construction sites and building sites. We also do video surveillance, access control, and security integration in high-tech facilities. And we help keep the wolf away from the door. I've spent over 15 years in this industry. What that brings is the ability to work on very large projects. One of my biggest customers was Simon Property Group, which was at the time the largest small property management company in America. I've also worked with the Texas Department of Corrections. I've worked with very large Fortune 100 companies. I've traveled all over the world doing electronic security and surveillance. And what I bring is a very strong understanding of how to work with large organizations, people at many different levels, and more importantly, get the job done.
Good. Ms. Rummel?
So I'll go to my time specifically with American Express. The division that I worked on, I was responsible for a $500 million cost center. The city budget is just under $200 million. So I'm confident that I can manage the funds that are required of this. Additionally, in my current role, I'm responsible for a team of account managers and strategic partners. That's a lot of what this is we are partnering with different people throughout the community. And I've built my career making sure that we are creating progress, continuous improvement, and moving forward. And thankfully, a lot of my partners have even supported my campaign from afar just to say that they appreciated me and thought that I would be a wonderful person in the role.
Good. And I want to congratulate both of our candidates. Our timekeeper's getting bored over here because you guys are doing a terrific job, so keep up the good work there. And just as a reminder, if either of you want to follow up to something that your opponent says, you're allowed 2 follow-up questions on.
Do I get my last 15 seconds? Because I had one more thing I wanted to add.
Absolutely.
Though the one thing that has been going on for the last 10 months during COVID is I've been a member of my company's crisis management team. So I've been working through the business continuity plans, the risk mitigation, the reallocation of a budget. And I do think that is incredibly important for this next role.
Good.
Well, that leads right into a next question. Since you mentioned COVID, with cases rising, if you were to get on the city council, what do you think the city council in the city of Frisco should be doing at this time to address the pandemic?
So one of the things, the city was not needed to take a lot of action because we followed the state regulations, then the county regulations. Really, the only time the city had to get involved was when our counties did not align. And I would assume that same would follow. Both the mayor and the current city council are going to do their best to keep the economy growing while also keeping everybody safe. And that is something that I would also be very encouraging of. That's one of the things we worked on during the pandemic was helping our clients become converted to virtual and remote organizations to where they could still be successful and still maintain their business.
Mr. Strickland?
Yeah, so the mayor, council, and Dr. Gamber did a phenomenal job of handling the COVID issues here. I really track the data, and what the data is how many hospital beds do we have available in Denton County, how many are in Collin County, and how many ventilators do we have? And my, what I want to say to the citizens of Frisco is that's something that I'm going to be paying attention to. I really care about the metrics. If we have a bunch of cases go up and things are happening, I'm going to watch that, and I'm going to do my best to get, the city does a good job getting information out as much as they possibly can, but I'm really paying attention to what's our capacity. Do our counties have the ability to care for the people in case this happens? And the good news is Collin and Denton County have plenty of hospital beds and plenty of ventilators.
Good. Let's shift gears just a little bit. We had the Fields development that was one of the largest, most complex zoning cases Frisco's ever gone through. Mr. Strickland, what were your thoughts on the eventual outcome, what's being planned for the Fields development? What are you in favor of? What would you have like to have done differently there?
Oh, that's a pretty complicated question. I think with any development, and including the Fields development, I think the council did a good job of making sure that the developers and everybody that was doing work on it, fell in line with what the city was looking to do. There's plenty of green space out there. I think there's different things that are going to be beneficial to the citizens of Frisco. So, great job on that, and really that's one of those developments that I'm completely fine with.
So there's nothing basically that you would have done differently or would have wished to have been different?
We would have to get down to specifics, but I think overall, good job on that one.
Okay. Ms. Rummel, same question, Fields.
Yeah, I actually agree that I think that was a phenomenal development. I think it was very smart of us to put a starter amount of college housing and then see what the demand looks like, knowing that we don't have anything to compare it to in Frisco now, and then give them the ability to add more later should the demand be there. I love that we added some senior living space. I think that's something we are in desperate need of, more of here in Frisco. And I also applaud them. They negotiated the apartment rights down that could have been built there by thousands, and that has been a huge directive by both the council and the city staff to try and reduce our overall population at build out, and I think they did a phenomenal job on that.
Well, while we're talking about developments, you mentioned earlier that you had ideas for Grand Park, which has been a much awaited amenity here in Frisco. So can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on funding Grand Park?
Absolutely. I can go off of this for 60 seconds or more, hopefully. So for Grand Park, I would love to see endowment funds that we can develop to help maintain for the maintenance. You could, buy benches or something like that to honor different people within your family and friends. I would love to see a coffee shop be built that's not accessible by any motorized vehicle for people to have access to go get their coffee and a pastry or a sandwich or something during the day. And we can use the rent revenue from that, as well as buildings up and down the highway. We're going to have to separate the park from the highway itself. So having some ways that we can create a barrier that would make sense, and then use the rent from that to help with the ongoing maintenance. I would love to also see I'm blanking on my third one. A volunteer program. I would love to see people have the opportunity to sign up to help work in the botanical gardens or anything that we have like that to help reduce our maintenance.
Oh, we got a little bit of the cowbell, just barely.
So my Smart City Initiative actually has an app in there where you can sign up to go volunteer. And so in your local community area, or whether it be Grand Park, you can kind of adopt an area and you can go pick up trash and make sure it's taken care of. But I see something maybe similar to the Katy Trail, right? Where, the hike trails and there's bike trails and there's areas out there where families can bring their kids and they can play, open spaces, playground equipment. And I love the public-private partnership aspect of that. Let's have restaurants out there. Let's have, snow cone stands, ice cream stands. Maybe we can have the, like the rail yard out there where, we can have the food trucks out there. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Very good. All right. Let's shift a little bit to our favorite term, local control. Now, there are lots of aspects with local control, but in particular, the building materials issue,
Right.
otherwise known as HB 2439.
Yes.
Mr. Strickland, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that needs to be changed? Was that a good thing to put into law? Why or why not?
So one of my good friends is Representative Jared Patterson. He's a Denton County state rep for House District 106. If you live on the Denton County side of Frisco, I was against that. And I didn't like the bill because the cities need to decide, hey, look, what's the right type of materials that's going to fit in with this? I mean, we can't have buildings with all these different types of materials and it doesn't look uniform. I mean, what does that do to property values? And so I was definitely against that.
Ms. Rummel.
I was also against that. I understand the intention of it, which was to make sure that people had the freedom to build what they want. But from local control, we need to have the ability to say, these are our building minimums. So I think the wording could very easily be amended to say these are the minimum standards, which was essentially what they were trying to get to. So if we can make it the minimum and then let the cities deem what is necessary for our area, then the end result would be much better.
All right, well, a long worked on initiative was to get a 4-year university into Frisco. And so now we have Collin College, we have UNT Frisco. What do you know about their programs and their initiatives? And what is one of your favorite things that they're working on currently?
So the technology piece obviously is near and dear to my heart. I would love to see some of the more of the technology things that are coming in, which plays very closely into the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. I would love to partner with UNT and give them opportunities for internships. No one works harder than a college kid who's wanting to be eager to learn more about something that they're passionate about. So that's one that I'm really excited about coming.
So some people may or may not know this. My wife and I actually met at UNT. We fell in love, and we studied abroad with the music program over in Europe. So UNT, Mean Green, woo, is near and dear to my heart and my family. So I actually used that internship program that you're talking about to actually bring in college interns from UNT to work at my manufacturer's rep company a few years back. And so they have wonderful opportunities to do that. For Frisco, I'll tell you that the entrepreneurship is going to be a big deal, the incubator type of setups. I just am really looking forward to seeing what these college kids can bring to the table, because it's exciting, and UNT is a wonderful, wonderful university.
Good. So you keep going back to these new workforce and creative things. I keep going back to local control. That's a big deal for me. Right. So, Ms. Strickland, let's go back and talk a little bit about what was proposed 2 years ago as SB 29, otherwise known taxpayer-funded lobbying. What do you know about that proposed bill, and what are your thoughts on whether that should be passed or not?
So taxpayer-funded lobbying it's a tough one, right? Because some people say, well, our cities need to be able to advocate for what we feel is the best thing, but cities don't generate revenue usually from business, they generate it from taxpayers, so it is going to be taxpayer money used. So I see that argument for it. I will say no, I am not a fan of taxpayer-funded lobbying.
So just as a follow-up, to make it clear, you would basically be in favor of something that would not allow our city to retain lobbyists down in Austin to represent what the city is trying to do?
I think that we don't need to retain lobbyists. I think that we can have representatives from the city go down there, not third-party individuals. I went down and talked to our representative about things, and I know our other city council members, we have staff that can do that. We don't need outside lobbying and attorneys to go do that.
Ms. Rummel, follow up, same question.
This was actually something I got an education on just recently, and I found out that those taxpayer lobbyists are who helped us get some of the excise stuff figured out. They were the ones who helped us get with CoServe, helped us get the bury the lines taken care of. And I honestly don't know that we would have been able to do that without their help. And I think so when it comes to getting things done that are big, important issues for the city of Frisco, it may be necessary. If we're going to go against very wealthy pockets on the other side, we still need a seat at the table. So I do think that's something that we may have to do.
Well, speaking of, I think tools that the city of Frisco has used, economic development has been a big part of how we've grown this city. Mm-hmm. And so the different tools that the EDC has, what do you think should be done differently, if anything, as far as regulations on how they use those?
I don't know that I would necessarily change any regulations for the EDC funds specifically. I think a lot of conversation that people have had is they want more visibility into the deals that are made. And I don't think that that's the way to go. As a businesswoman, when your contracts are out there and visible for everybody to see, then you're in danger of somebody else saying, oh, well, I want that deal, or I'm not going to do a deal with you unless I get that or better. So there's reasons why we keep that confidential. And I've been very impressed with the conversations that I've had of the requirements that are built into that are job creation, revenue growth, things that actually help our community. And I do think they've even been able to be helpful during COVID with some of those businesses and giving them extensions to help those businesses build back faster.
Mr. Strickland?
Yeah, so there's, our EDC is doing a great job, and they've kind of shifted away from kind of more of the tourism retail to pulling into bigger businesses, right? Because COVID has really changed a lot here in Frisco. So I applaud them for what they're doing. I think there is transparency, but in the business world, there also has to be the protection of what's going on. And overall, they've done a very good job.
Good. So Frisco, one of the newest accolades for Frisco, depending on your point of view, we were recently recognized for our increase in the number of renters, one of the largest increase in renters. And I can't believe we've gotten this far without talking about multifamily. So obviously a large part of that increase in renters is multifamily, so not all of it. What are your thoughts on the multifamily development here in Frisco, and as it applies to people who are working here in our retail service business that may not be able to afford to buy a house?
Well, first off is there's apartments here that cost a lot more per month than my home mortgage does. So these aren't affordable apartments, right? When it comes to multifamily, I mean, we have apartments here. We have apartments that are being built. If you're a landowner and your land is zoned for multifamily, then you have every right to build those apartments. And as long as you follow our code, our ordinance, and everything gets approved, I'm going to have no issue with that. Certainly with newer apartment developments, we want to keep them along the spine of the toll road up on 380 and south on 121 so we can create that reverse commute. What I'm not going to be, what I won't approve on Frisco City Council is any zoning that wasn't multifamily prior to flip over to multifamily.
Okay. Ms. Rummel?
So there are a few areas recently where we flipped from a commercial to a mixed use. And I found out the definition of that was 70% commercial, 30% multifamily. And to me, that makes sense in the live, work, and play areas. Those are supportive of our businesses in there. So I don't have any issues with those. Just like Dan said, there are apartment rights that are outstanding, so you will never hear me say, I'm gonna say no to all apartments. That's just not realistic. We're at 97% capacity right now of the apartments that are in Frisco, so there's a demand. We do need more. And as long as the property rights are outstanding and there's people that have those rights and there's demand for them, they will continue to be built.
Well, I've enjoyed that we get to know you a little bit better in this forum with only two tonight, but if there was one thing that you could drive home to the voters about you that you want to emphasize, what would that one thing be?
I would say that I'm ready for this. I have got the business experience to support it from a work ethic. I've got the passion, and I've got the time that I'm willing to spend to do this. I'm very fortunate that my company has an unlimited vacation policy, as well as is completely supportive of me doing this. And my husband of 12 years has been right there alongside me the whole time during this campaign, and understands the time commitment that this is going to take. So I am willing to serve Frisco, and I can't wait to be your next councilwoman.
Mr. Strickland?
So the lens that I view everything is through putting Frisco families first. I care deeply about our families. That's why people move here. People move here for safe communities, for a safe community. They move here for our schools. And I've been serving the community for years. I love to give back. And whether it's serving my neighbors on the homeowners association for years, whether it's serving in the PTA, or getting involved in the different things like Frisco Association for the Arts. That's what makes Frisco so special. I've been here and I've been involved with those organizations for quite some time, and I want to continue those good works. I do have a lot of experience business-wise, and I'm absolutely excited to get an opportunity to serve as your Frisco City Councilman.
Okay.
Well, follow-up question to that. What is the one thing you would want the voters to know about your opponent, in this race?
My opponent is very hardworking, and she really is impressive with everything she did at the polls. No other candidate was out there working as hard as she was.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Ms. Rummel, same question to you.
That is a very hard one. I was not prepared for that one. I would say my opponent is someone who has support of obviously some of the local leaders, so he's got partnerships built there. I think I can't think of specifics we have a lot of things in common actually, so there's a lot of things that I don't know what I would call out specifically.
Very good.
And you've spent more months campaigning together than
We've gotten
most.
to know each other very well along with the other candidates.
You know what's funny is so both of us like musicals, and I was out there like we were singing Hamilton. I mean literally when you're sitting out there, we're freezing, like freezing, and you know we were talking to each other and keeping each other's spirits up.
So next question, can you sing Hamilton for us?
Oh
Which
my
song?
gosh.
That would be embarrassing, but I do love the I'm not going to waste my shot song. That's my campaign rally song.
And my favorite part of Hamilton is when the king, message from the king, and they go up there, you say, yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes. So.
I'm feeling left out here. I obviously have not seen Hamilton, so.
It's a great musical. You can go see it.
Very good. As Crystal mentioned, we've gotten to get to know you guys a lot better. Now, there are some people in the political circles that really get to know somebody by looking at campaign reports.
Sure.
So, forget it, we got Ms. Rummel. If somebody were to go and look through your campaign reports, what would that tell them about you, your contributors, and the people supporting you that are listed out there?
So they may not recognize the names because a lot of them are friends and family or coworkers of mine. I did not actively fundraise the first time around, actually. I funded it all myself. I think they would find I am extremely frugal. I did an ROI analysis on everything because it was my own money. So I was very careful about how we spent funds, where we spent them, especially in a COVID age. There were a lot of traditional things that weren't going to work and had to get creative. So I think they'd see that I have a good strategy, good business sense, making sure that we made every dollar count.
And just to follow up before we get to you, Mr. Strickland, yes, we did a little bit of looking at them, and I think out of the 7 candidates, you were about number 5 in spending. A large part of that was from your own personal funds. And just can you reiterate a little bit more? What does that tell somebody about you when the majority, a large portion of your expenditures were personally funded?
I think you can take it one of 2 ways. I would say, but the way that you should take it is that I was eager to invest in myself on this. I did not, it is not in my nature to go out and ask for money. Even now, I'm very lucky that I have people out fundraising for me. It is just not in my nature to beg people to give me money. So I think it is something that I will obviously have to get better at in the future, but it's something that I'm just not good at right now. But.
And Mr. Strickland, what would your campaign report say about your campaign, your donors?
Well, first off is one of my major donors is the Frisco Firefighters Association, and I'm deeply honored to have received funds from them, not only money but gifts in kind. You know, they put out signs for me. You know, they did labor, they mailers. I mean, they put me on a billboard. Like, I cannot believe that. You know, you talk about frugality. I would never even think about putting my name on a billboard. But that was a pretty amazing moment. And so what I can say about my campaign finance report is thank you to all of the supporters. Many of them were here in Frisco that gave to my campaign. I'm so humbled. I would have never have thought that I would have received that much support, and I'm just deeply honored for the opportunity and to just meet those wonderful people and get their support.
And as a follow-up to you, sometimes looking through campaign reports, we'll bring questions to somebody. One question that somebody might ask of your campaign reports, and I want to give you the opportunity to explain it, there was a $8,000 contribution from an out-of-state contributor. Somebody here locally might raise some eyebrows about that. Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So yes, that was from Louisiana. That's actually a sister of one of the ladies that I know here in Frisco that actually is a big campaign supporter, and they have such a unique story. They're both immigrants, and her sister was telling her about my candidacy and the story, and she's like, I want to help out Dan, and she she has quite a bit of resources, and so it was a blessing, and just want to say thanks to her for that.
Very good. Sorry, I asked multiple questions there, but I wanted to cover the numbers.
No, that's okay. I'm not greedy with my questions. So why don't we turn it over to you? What is one question that you would want to ask of your opponent, Ms. Rummel?
So Dan, I have heard that you talk obviously a lot about, the Frisco firefighters and supporting them in the future. Is there anything that you have concerns with how the fire department's being run today?
So yes, and it's really not so much on how it's being run. What my concern is how our firefighters are being taken care of. So one of the things about me is being a veteran. I understand what it's like to wear a uniform, but I also understand the wear and tear that it takes on your body and the imminent danger that people that wear uniforms are in. And our firefighters right now, we need to work on their workers' compensation. So if one of our firefighters gets hurt, we need to make sure that them and their family are taken care of if it's something catastrophic.
And Mr. Strickland, do you have a question for Ms. Rummel?
Yeah, I do have a question for her. What was your favorite part about poll greeting?
Probably getting to talk to people that I had not met before. I met some of our local business owners that I really enjoyed speaking with. I actually saw another one of them just this past weekend that I ran into, and it was really fun to see them again. They recognized me instantly, which was flattering. But I love talking to the people of Frisco and learning more of their perspectives, what their concerns were. I got questions that I had never got before, and I found it very interesting. So there were new things for me to go home and read up about and learn more about that I hadn't heard previously.
Very good. So you guys have each alluded to several of the new projects in town, Grand Park, Fields Development. We've talked about all that. There's another one that I can't believe we've gotten to this point without talking about, a proposed new art center. Mr. Strickland, what are your thoughts on the art center? What role should the city have in that, and going about from there?
So I love the arts. I'm a supporter of the arts. I'm a member of the Frisco Association for the Arts. I actually help raise money for that organization. That is going to be, I believe it's going to be an amazing facility. Would love to see some public-private partnerships there. I think people are concerned about the maintenance and the upkeep of the facility and how that's going to affect taxpayer dollars, and that's something that I'm going to pay very, very close attention to. And that's something we need to be very aware of.
Ms. Rummel?
I think it's a great opportunity for the city and the school to partner on a new initiative. We've seen those be very successful in the past. I do agree that there needs to be a private partnership that does the ongoing maintenance of it, so that our investment into it is initial, but we are not requiring salaries, operations. And then also as a private entity, we can bring in out of state opportunities or in-state opportunities, but things that are traveling companies that could come through and perform for us to bring additional entertainment options to Frisco. So I'm really excited to finally see that come to fruition.
Good. And I just looked down really quick and time is flying by, but this is good. I like the fact this time, we really got to get to know our candidates, and hopefully our viewers have as well. So do you want to have anything else, or do you want to throw it to closing statements? So,
Yeah, let's give 2 minutes each.
Yep, and so I'll tell you what, we're going
All right,
to Mr. Strickland.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Chamber for hosting this candidate forum and everybody watching this evening. As a husband, father of 2 children, a United States Marine Corps veteran, I bring proven leadership and business experience to help grow our local economy. Frisco is a wonderful city with the best people in the world. I'm glad to call you my friend and neighbor. My campaign's been endorsed by the Frisco Firefighters Association, Alan West, Chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, elected law enforcement officials in both Denton and Collin County. I've also been endorsed by State Representative Patterson, Ryan Williams, who's going to be our new Denton County Commissioner. Frisco City Councilman Brian Livingston, and I'm just wanting to keep Frisco. We're constantly rated as one of the best places to live in the U.S., yet there's more work to do. You know, our city needs to attract employers that offer high-paying jobs, and we need to stand together as a community and help our small businesses by shopping Frisco first. I'm also committed to our veterans and promise to work with veteran service organizations such as the Frisco VFW to provide high-quality veteran services to help them transition to civilian life, navigate career and education choices, while giving them the opportunity to be involved and serve Frisco. While in the Marines, I was a marksmanship instructor and suffered lifelong hearing loss due to loud fire and live explosion drills. As a veteran with service-connected disabilities, I know firsthand the struggle our servicemen and women go through to qualify for and receive medical treatment they so rightfully deserve. If you're a veteran, I stand with you and will fight for you. As your city councilman, my pledge to the citizens of Frisco is to put Frisco families first, making sure our police and fire department are funded and have the resources they need to do their job and protect our families. Thank you, and I look forward to serving you on Frisco City Council. For more information about my campaign, you can visit danstrickland.com.
Ms. Rummel?
Okay, well, thank you again for hosting us this evening. I really do appreciate it. I am not running as much on my endorsements, although I do have them. Please check out my Facebook page if you'd like to see who they are. But I am running on my experience. I have 20 years business experience with some incredible organizations. I've managed some really complex issues, which I think are directly relative to our city and things that we'll be facing in the future. I'm running on making sure that we recover from the economic impact of COVID as our #1 priority and do it as successfully as possible, helping our businesses to get through that in the best way possible to get them back on their feet and helping our people get employed again. My second is infrastructure. I want to make sure that our roads are built and maintained, and we are proactively planning for the 100,000 people that are going to move here over the next 10 years. And that is going to be a big strain on our city if we are not properly prepared for it. The third thing, the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center we mentioned earlier, that I'm very excited to see that come to fruition. I know my unique experience would help make that successful. And then lastly, I am a big advocate for our parks and our pets. We didn't touch it all on our pets thing, but I would love to see the city put some new structure around our pets that could help us with microchip clinics, spay and neuter things, all things that we could do for very low cost, if any, if we just had somebody to coordinate it. So I would love to see an advisory board come to fruition that could help us coordinate that and just continue to add wonderful city services to our city that make us one of the best cities in the nation to live in. And I also look forward to being your next councilwoman. And I would encourage everybody, if you'd like to know more about me, my website is lauraforfrisco.com. My Facebook page is also Laura for Frisco. And I'm extremely accessible, so if we didn't answer your question tonight, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer your question.
Very good. Well, we just want to say congratulations to you two making it through the round of 7 down to 2. We also do want to acknowledge and thank all of those that ran the first time around, because all of you wanting to step up and help, that is a huge deal. And you've been through something that nobody else has been through with this campaign that will not end. Assuming that everything goes according to plan with the city council tomorrow, the final votes are tallied, they call for the runoff election. We believe that'll be December 8th. With early voting starting on the 23rd, yes. And we want everybody to please go out and vote. I know everybody's got voter fatigue and campaign fatigue. I don't have to tell you two about that. Everybody else out there, but one more election before we get into the next round already. We want everybody to come on out and vote. Ms.
They've
Crystal.
definitely done their part, so
Yes.
it's the least we can do is to go out and vote in this runoff. And this forum will live online on the Chamber's pages, so you can share it with your friends and colleagues as well.
And we want to thank you too for really being able to get in and get to know you much better than we did with the round of 7. And thank you, and best of luck to you both. And thank you again. Ms. Crystal, we could be back here in what, 2-3 weeks? I don't know. I think we're going to have a winner here. I don't know. This year it might be a tie vote again. Now, what are we going to do at that? That should have been one of the questions.
You shouldn't bring this up, though.
So until then, one step at a time. Please remember to go vote. And thank you both, and thank you, Ms. Crystal, for moderating.
Yeah, thank you.
Be sure and share this with everybody you can out there, but go vote.